Thanks so much, Althea, and thank you, Janine. Really, some of the stuff I'm going to cover today and talk about, is only possible because of getting to be at in-person experiences this year, like Zuzulu. So thank you so much. Is there any way to get my notes in English? Okay. All right, so the PROGCRYPTO community is really doing incredible research and development to move cryptographic functionality into the hands of developers and teams building user-facing applications. Thanks to the drive and commitment of people in the space, we now have tools to do things like build apps where users can own their data and make zero-knowledge proofs about it. But when it comes to determining what to build and how to build it, the tried and true frameworks of the past 2 decades of product design start to break down. One reason these frameworks don't fully serve us is because we are working with far less data to inform the decisions that we make. This makes it crucial for product builders to perform qualitative user research to collect data and insights. And that's what this talk is going to be about. But what does that kind of research look like, and what sorts of strategies can we take to ensure it is worth our time? Thank you all for being here today. I'm Rachel, like Althea said. This is really confusing me. It looks like the slides are moving forward on the cues, but not on the big screen. Okay. I'm just not sure. Yeah, it's like they're not synced. Okay. It looks like they're synced now. Thank you so much. So I'm Rachel. I lead design strategy for privacy and scaling explorations, and for the Jebmoji team, this NFC ZK project. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a way to collect little pieces of cryptography and make proofs about it based on in-person interactions. So you can find them around the space and experiment with that. Today, I want to share some learnings which have led me to believe that qualitative research is going to be really key for advancing cryptography from an R&D phase to a consumer-facing one. So today, we're going to cover why it is that we have less user data and information at our disposal. 2 kinds of user research, quantitative and qualitative. And lastly, I'll share some qualitative UX research techniques in practice. So, why do cryptographic builders need a unique design strategy? Quite frankly, we're missing information. If you're building open source user-facing applications, you're existing in a space where the technology is quite technically complicated. We're still a few steps away from like profit and product market fit. The infrastructure is still improving. We're really in the early stages, as like I've already heard multiple speakers say today. And the frameworks I mentioned before, like agile-based frameworks, are built for aligning design strategy with stakeholder goals and profit margins. So like there's this disconnect right now. And perhaps most relevant to what I'm talking about today is we have fewer user analytics. One, because we have a really niche user base, small amount of users, and if apps that we're building are privacy preserving, we're going to collect far less user data compared to standard products. So, this missing information might appear to be a disadvantage, but it's actually an invitation to make a choice. Build with limited or undefined information, or build with meaningful insights that are going to be more difficult to acquire, but are going to let us build with intention. So what is the right data to collect? Let's have a quick look at the differences between quantitative and qualitative research from a design lens. Quantitative UX research involves the use of numerical data and statistical methods to understand users. So this type of research is focused on gathering and analyzing measurable data to draw conclusions. The main limitations here is that quantitative research will tell us who our users are, what they spend their time doing, but it won't tell us why. Why are they making these choices or not performing certain actions? Another thing to mention with surveys, like how many people in here love filling out surveys? I don't see any hands. So it's a real struggle to collect information that way, and at the end of the day, the responses that you get are always going to be subject to the survey writer's bias and like their perception of the problem, which might not be complete. Qualitative UX research involves gathering non-numerical data to understand our users. So instead of focusing on numerical measurements, it aims to provide in-depth insights into a user's experience. This type of research in general is more time-consuming because it requires a lot of preparation. It takes time to interview people and have conversations and host workshops and discussions. And there's a lot of human coordination involved, like the scheduling that happens, finding people to participate, and in factoring environmental context. Like with the Jubmoji project, I'd love to be doing qualitative research here, but this is like a very chaotic week. Everyone has so much that they are going to and attending. So like at an event at this scale, like imagine how much harder this type of research becomes. So despite the challenges of qualitative research, I believe it's really going to be key for helping cryptographic builders identify what to build. In the best versions of these products that we're making and these protocols, the user has privacy and max control of their data. So we're going to have to get really good at gathering insights through conversations with users and with each other as builder teams. And then like recording and sharing what we learn. So qualitative user research matters even more in a self-sovereign world. How do we get good qualitative data? If people are ever going to adopt cryptography as a tool, like very general audiences, we need insights into their perceptions, fears, and beliefs about it. We can learn those from face-to-face conversations. So, like I mentioned earlier, my team has had the privilege to attend multiple residencies throughout the year. Zuzulu, Devconnect, Funding the Commons hosted a residency in Berlin, and this in-person time as a team made a huge difference in terms of having workshops as a team, setting up whiteboards, mapping out our thoughts, running early stage ideas and concepts by people that we were just meeting who were in different fields than us. That made such an impact in determining what we were going to build. And being able to test our hypotheses early. I just want to share an image of an early iteration compared to a later one of our NFC Jabmoji project to highlight how, conceptually, this project moved forward in terms of visual images based on having a bunch of discussions as a team. So you see in this earlier iteration this idea of a box and what you're collecting kind of being halfway hidden in it, and that being what you're about to collect when you tap the card, to this next iteration where Kat, another designer on my team, started visualizing the Jabmojis that you collect when tapping. They're all emojis. The apple being hidden within a public domain work of art. So discussing the discussions that we had as a team really helped us push the concept further. Also, here's some pictures from our first demo that we had for Jabmojis at SBC, and that we also brought to FTC in the fall. And I just want to show how these cards have changed once again. Here's the next iteration where the emojis are on the outside of the cards instead of hidden within a work of art. You can see people grabbing them to collect. And our early designs for the app, if any of you want to see the latest iteration, it's at jabmoji.quest. And I just want you to compare and contrast some of these early designs to what we have now. When we brought this, I knew there were ways that this could improve, but I also knew we had to get it in front of people and have them giving us our feedback in order for us to move forward. And that's when we're talking about collecting qualitative research, a lot of it is really uncomfortable. Putting things in front of people before they're done and before you feel confident, it's hard, but it also is the earlier you can get the designs in front of people and get feedback, the faster you'll be able to keep iterating. So I just want to share some helpful reflections that we like to keep in mind when we're doing user testing and when we're getting feedback. Um, like I was mentioning before, like holding back from trying to explain yourself and say like, don't worry, it's not done yet. Well, it's gonna get better. It's not supposed to be like that. It's broken. Not saying those things, refraining from it, can actually like really help, because you can, in place of those thoughts and words, you can add some of these ideas, like just watching people interact with what you're building and like observing, what do they gravitate to first? What do they feel curious about? My favorite like bullet point up here is this idea of expectations. Like when people are interacting with what you're building and they are like tapping on a certain part of the screen and maybe they seem confused, ask them, what do you expect to happen right now? Did the thing that happened match the expectation that you had? This is like, like really helpful for making product improvements, because you'll see where like what you thought would be obvious like isn't obvious to the user. Something that really surprised us as a team was with this first iteration of Jubmojis, when you tap to collect. So this is already a unique like design in the sense that you tap, you collect, and it is stored in your browser. There is no app. There isn't like a first step. You like, it's one tap to owning the data, which like we're really excited about. And that's, you know, getting closer to this world where people own their data if we can make it really easy for them to collect it. But when people were collecting, they were just, the Jubmojis were just being added to a list, and people were saying, how, what, I never set up a profile. And for us, that made us realize like, oh, there's this whole paradigm that exists of like, you have to create an account first to be able to store stuff there. So we iterated to have an onboarding flow. So when you collect, like notice these steps. And this is like, there were 7 or 8 people who were all iterating this copy based on also testing the experience to get it to a point where we could like hopefully make it as clear as possible what is happening here and how like to help people understand this sense of owning the data. Okay. I'll skip this one. Here's, yeah, some other like helpful phrases that you can, oops. Like maybe take a picture of this. These are just helpful phrases to like have in mind when you're user testing. It'll just make people feel more comfortable and get you like better insights. And to close, I would like to quote my colleague Althea, who, when we were reflecting on user testing, she said that what surprised her so much is that like actually hearing the questions that the users are asking about what they're interacting with was like so much more helpful than like their answers to the questions that we prepared that we thought would give us the insights that we needed. So in closing, meaning is what we make together. I feel really excited about the future of this community and the collaboration that's going to come out of it. Thanks so much.